Hey guys, welcome back to the channel. Today we're going to be making this red oak bar. It's made up of three components. It's U-shaped, so it's three components. It's 45 in the corners, and the boards are two pieces glued up. So let's get into it. All right, so the first order of process is to rip these boards down. They vary between 9.5, some of them are, some of them are almost 11. I'm ripping them down to 8.5 because my final dimensions of the bar is going to be 16 inches wide, so I'm going to glue up two 8.5 inch boards, and then I'll trim the ends after they're glued up. And these boards are just shy of 8/4. They're about 1 inch and 7/8 or so. So after I get them all ripped, I'll sticker them and let them sit, let them acclimate for a day or two, and then we'll get to the glue up. All right, so my mic battery must have died in this next segment, so there's no audio, but what I think I'm saying here is that I've ripped the boards now to 8.5. I'm going to glue them up, and I'm just saying where the dominoes are going to go. So I'm just going to put 4 or 5 dominoes in this board just to align it, and then we're going to glue it up. All right, so I have all my dominoes marked out. I'm going to cut them out now. I think these are 50 by, they're either 8 millimeter or 10 millimeter dominoes, I forget. But I'm putting about 5 in this board, I think. And then you can see on the board to the right here, there's a line on a diagonal. That's roughly where it's going to get 45 to join up and make the U's. So I know some of you out there may have been turned off by the red oak. It's kind of fallen out of favor over the years, but traditionally this is what bars are made out of. Most pubs, in your neighborhood probably have red oak as a bar top with lots of epoxy over the top of it. So the homeowner chose this just because he wanted it traditional, and also, the cost. Red oak it's strong, it's relatively clear, it takes stain nice, and it's relatively inexpensive for a hardwood. All right, so just a couple more dominoes here, and then we're gonna glue this up. All right, so I got my clamps set up. Um, I jointed an edge of this. This feels really crooked. I just want to throw a square on it really fast. Nope, it's dead on. I think because the other side, the bottom side here, isn't jointed yet. It must be sitting crooked in the clamps because it feels, when I touch this edge, it feels like it's like this. But you can see the square, it's square. Check the other one too, and it's square. All right, so I'm just gonna put some Type Bond Original in here and get these dominoes in. I always think I have too much glue in the domino holes, but it's usually not enough. It always looks like so much goes in there, but when you hammer in the dominoes, there's not a lot of squeeze out, so you know, either way, I'd rather have the squeeze out so you know for sure that there's enough glue in there. So it is winter time here right now. I do have the propane heater. It's about 51, 52 in here right now. Maybe a little chilly for a glue up, but I think it should be fine. And the temperature outside is going up. It's about 31 right now. It's supposed to warm up to about 46 tomorrow. And so I guess there's warm air moving in overnight. So it should be fine. I know I'll get some comments though saying, yeah, you shouldn't do a glue up in temperatures less than 55. Though I've only had the heater on for about a half hour now. I'm sure in about another half hour it'll be at least 55 in here. It's a small garage and the propane heater heats it up fairly quickly.
when I was thickness planing these boards up through the, I have that lunchbox thickness planer. I had to take a lot off these planks. These were about 11 inches, and it's oak. And I took about a quarter inch off them, probably a little bit more than a quarter inch. It might have been close to like 3/8 of an inch. And it took a few hours to do all these boards. And it got hot in here with no heater on, just the thickness planer going, just blowing out all those warm wood chips. So it doesn't take much to heat this garage up. It is insulated, so that helps. And I'm also sure this is way more than you want to hear about my garage. Wow, this oak is thirsty. I feel like it's really sucking this up. All right, domino time. These are 50 mil dominoes by 8. So you can see there that the glue is riding up the ridges on the back side. I don't know why that one's coming up on both sides. But that's why I beat on them, just to get the glue up. Flip her down. All right, there we go. Let me just see if I can whack it in a little better. It's going. This hammer's a little light for this size of a plank. Ah, it's coming together nice though. All right, that's beautiful. That is beautiful. All right. Well, it looks pretty flat. I'm going to put a caul on it anyway. Okay, she's all glued up with some cauls on. I think my my battery went before, so that's why you saw it partially clamped, and now it's fully clamped. But anyway, we're all glued up. We're nice and straight. Nice and flat. So we're just gonna let this sit overnight.
All right, so we let this sit overnight, taking the cauls and the clamps off, and we're gonna get it cleaned up a little bit and ready to mill it down to its final dimensions. So these boards were originally about 1 7/8 inches or so, and I'm gonna mill the top and the bottom down. So I'm gonna get them to about 1 5/8 inches is gonna be the final dimensions. So what I'm using here is the router sled from SpeTool with the dust collection, and I but this by no means captures all of the dust. But with my homemade setup that I had before this, I couldn't do this in the garage at all. Within 5 minutes, my glasses would have so much dust on them that I couldn't see 3 feet. So while this still does make a bit of a mess, it's way better than my homemade jig. And if you guys do slab flattening, I definitely recommend it. It's a good setup and it's pretty cost effective. It's not that expensive, and I will include the link with a 10% discount in the description if you guys want to check it out. So, SpeTool Router Sled. Okay, so after I router planed it, there was a couple of spots in the glue seam where I glued the two boards together where there were some tiny little voids where the glue chipped out. So I just have some Type on that board there. I'm using a toothpick and I'm just dropping a little dab of glue in each one of those voids. And then I'm just going to take some 100 grit sandpaper on a sanding block and I'm just going to sand up to it and get a nice line of dust. And then I'm just going to, with my hand, I'm just going to brush that dust in to fill that joint up. That works pretty well for me. I find that makes it pretty seamless looking. So here's where I'm just sanding into it, and I scraped away the excess glue with just a spackle knife before. All right, so here I'm using a speed square to draw a 45 here, and then I'm gonna use a straight edge held up against the speed square to continue the line down, and this is what I'm gonna set my track saw to cut the 45 on these boards. If anybody can think of a better way to do this, let me know. I was a little worried about that 45 not being perfect, because I only have that speed square. Um, I was thinking about using a framing square, but I couldn't see how to make sure it was exactly a 45. So this seemed like the best option. But yeah, if you have any recommendations, all ears. Put it in the comments. Thanks. All right, so we're cutting this 45 with the track saw. Now I have the track clamped to the workpiece, but the workpiece isn't clamped to the table, so you may see it wiggle a little bit, so it's just the workpiece moving, not the track. And then at the end of the cut here, it did bind up on me a little bit because I was trying to cut it with one hand and hold it with the other, and that oak's kind of heavy, so it was just binding a little. But all in all, it cut the 45 pretty nice. And when I got the other one cut and made it together, it was a pretty nice fit. I was pretty happy with it. So I guess the little speed square was pretty accurate. But I would still like to know if there's a better way to do it. Like if you had to do a 2 foot cut, that speed square, that little 8 inch speed square really isn't the right tool for it. And I'm sure there's a way to figure out a 45 mathematically. Um, Again, any suggestions, put them in the comments. Thanks. All right, so this is the middle of the U, and it's going to get a leg on the right and a leg on the left to make up the U.
Okay, so what I have done so far is I've just hot glued these pieces of poplar, 3/4 inch pieces of poplar onto the oak, and these are going to be my clamping blocks. So I am going to pull it tight and apply clamping pressure with these blocks. So, all right, I'm ready to pull this apart, and I'm ready to apply some glue.
All right, so this is on location at the homeowner's house now. This is the installation. So the bar was sanded, but I didn't apply any finish on it because the homeowner wanted to finish it himself. He's going to stain it and then put a top coat on it. So again, after I cut it all to shape, I just sanded it and I'm gonna glue it together here, putting the dominoes in. I'm gonna let it sit overnight at the homeowner's house. Then I'm gonna come back the next day. I'm gonna put the round over on it and get it on the pedestals. But we thought it would be easier to put it on the pedestals after it's all glued up. So that's why I'm gluing it up at the homeowner's house the night before. Also at the homeowner's house because if I would have glued this up in my shop, it would have made it really difficult to deliver to the client's house. So just spreading out some glue on these 45s. There's two dominoes in there to align it. Gonna lay it back down, push it together, clamp it, and let it sit. All right, so while I'm doing this glue up here, when I ordered the lumber for this job, I thought I was going to have to do three planks because originally my supplier had said I'm probably going to get 6.5 to 7.5 inch boards. So I figured I'd use three boards to make up my 16 inches that I needed, but I ended up getting 9 to 11 inch pieces, so I only need two. So I have some extra wood, some extra red oak. So if you guys have any suggestions for a red oak project, I have approximately two boards, 10 quarter. They're each at least 9 inches wide and they're about 8 feet long. So it's a pretty good amount of lumber. So any suggestions? Again, let me know in the comments. Thanks. All right, so I think we've seen enough of this glue up. Everybody's seen it glue up. So let's skip ahead to the next day. All right, so this is what we were looking at the next morning after I popped the clamps off and the poplar blocks, the clamping blocks. And now I have the trim router out with a little 1/4 inch round over bit on it, and I'm gonna just round over the outside and inside edge of the whole bar.
All right, so there's just a little bit of a gap in there, so I'm gonna squeeze some glue in there, and then I'm going to just get some sawdust in there.
Okay, so now I have the pedestals laid out on the bottom of the bar. I have a couple of screws in there just to hold them, and the client is actually down there with me, and he's going to help me stand this whole thing up as one unit and give it just a test fit. You may also notice that the left leg there is shorter than the right leg, and that's because I had cut 18 inches off it, and that is going to get hinged to the wall and open up so that you could walk into the bar. So this test fit was mainly to see how level the bar was going to sit. So the basement floor is not level. It's not only is it not level, but it's also wavy. It's got some high spots and low spots, which we knew already. So we're gonna set the bar up, we're gonna throw some levels on there, and what we're gonna end up doing is I'm going to have to recess a couple of those pedestals into the bottom of the bar by about, I think one of them had to go about 1/4 inch and the other one had to go about an eighth of an inch. And we thought that was a better solution than cutting the floor. One, I don't, we didn't want to cut the floor, and two, it'd be cleaner looking to do it under the bar. It actually, the pedestals look nice recessed into the bar itself, and who's going to look under there and see it anyway? Okay, so apologies about the lighting, but you can see good well enough. So you can see I already mortised the one pedestal hole in on the left, and then that was me reenacting the second one over there on the right because I forgot to turn the camera on when I did it. But like I said, that first one on the left, it's recessed about 1/4 inch, and then the one on the right there that I'm just sticking the pedestal in now is about an eighth of an inch, and those recesses resolve the unevenness in the floor, so everything sits nice and level. So the only thing left to do now is to bolt the pedestals back to the underside of the bar, stand it up. I drilled the feet of the pedestals into the floor and put concrete bolts in there. And then I didn't film it, but I have a little piano hinge on that piece on the left over there, that 18-inch piece on the left, and it just opens up against the wall so you can walk into the bar. So that's a wrap on this simple little bar, and thanks for watching.